Hi guys, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as the artbyroad.com website where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. So if that sounds like something you might be interested, go ahead and check that out, but watch the video first. Again, that's artbyroad.com. And today we're going to be doing some Mola inspired art on artist trading cards. And these make really, really nice artist trading cards, especially if you're a beginner, because there's just so much you can do with them, so many different ways you can add some variation to them, different designs you can do, colors, techniques, patterns. These are just so much fun. So let's go ahead and go on over to the art studio and we'll get started on that video. The drawing I'm doing today is inspired by Mola art, and the images are typically things of like animals, everyday life, nature. So animals are very popular in this type of artwork, and it's typically done with textiles. So normally the images of, like, if it's an animal, or sometimes you'll see like flowers or those sorts of things, they're very simplified. So since this is just inspired by the Mola textiles, we can have a little bit of freedom to make things a little more detailed or less detailed. Either way is fine. We're just taking the inspiration from this style of art. So I'm going to draw a fish today, and this is done on an artist trading card. If you're not familiar with artist trading cards, check out the description box. There's a link in there to my free guide on artist trading cards if you're new to them. There's also a really handy template in there that will show you how to cut them out of a sheet of paper. You can get 10 individual artist trading cards out of one sheet of paper if you cut it a certain way. That information's in there as well. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in artist trading cards. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to draw a fish, and I want it to take up most of the card. So I'm going to start by laying out some shapes here real quick. So here's the body. The tail's going to be up here. And I'm just doing just a quick rough idea of where I want things to go to make sure everything fits in here and doesn't go too much off of the paper. If it goes off the paper a little bit, that's okay. It's not a big deal if your whatever it is you're drawing runs off the paper a little bit. It's not the end of the world. So now I'm going to start adding in the individual details. And again, because this style of art is typically done on fabric, there's normally not a lot of detail to it. It's a little bit more simplified and to some extent quite abstract looking. So don't worry about everything being completely the way it needs to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is a really fun style of art to make. So the last thing you want to do is stress yourself out about things being so perfect. That takes the fun out of art anyway, and we don't want to do that. We want to keep things relaxing, calming, enjoyable. So here's the mouth. I'm going to add a little bit of shape to the body just to make it look a little bit more interesting. And you can draw these lines and keep that connected if you want, because we are going to put some patterns in there. And then for this fin, and as you're doing this, if you need to make them bigger, smaller, angled different, feel free to make those changes as you go. And we can clean this up when we do our outline as well. Turn my paper a little bit here so I can get a good angle. I'm going to curve that down. Bring that up. And then Okay, so there's my basic shape of my fish. It's not too detailed, but it's got a little bit of detail to it. And then we have this line here, and then we're going to add an eye to it so our fishy can see. Okay, so a little bit of detail, not a ton. Let's put this other fin here. You definitely want enough detail that you can tell it's a fish, but you don't need to get too crazy with it. Okay, so there's our fish. Nothing super detailed. You want to be able to tell it's a fish for sure. If you want your drawing to look a little bit more like the Mola art, you can make it more blocked off, more abstract. But because we're not doing this on fabric, we can go ahead and add a little bit more detail. We don't need to get crazy with it. We don't need to add a ton of detail, but we do want our artwork to look interesting. But definitely do whatever feels right for you. I don't want you to have the same exact opinions about everything that I do, because you want your artwork to be your own. You want it to be original. So make sure you're always doing whatever seems right to you. I make these videos just as a guide to get you started. My hope is that as you watch my videos, you learn something from them and you feel inspired to do your own thing with your own artwork. That's why I love artist trading cards so much, because they save a lot of time. They're a lot quicker, which means you can make more artwork in the same amount of time that you're going to spend, which means you can try different things and you can experiment more. So I'm going to outline all this. I'm going to fill the eye in black. Now at this point, because I do want there to be some different patterns inside here, I can make additional lines to separate these areas. Like I might want to keep this line back here from the tail so that I can divide that up a little bit easier. And then the other thing I want to do is take my eraser and get rid of all these pencil lines before I start using markers and colored pens and whatever I might want to do in here. Okay, so I got that cleaned up, and you can use, this just happens to be an eraser that I had laying around. You can use those pink erasers, work just fine. One of these, just your normal pink pearl eraser. This is just called a black eraser. I don't know where I even got it from, but okay. So now we want to start adding in some different patterns. So the Mola art will have patterns inside as well as outside. And normally there's an outline or a couple outlines going around, or those might be broken up into different types of shapes. So we can start by adding some patterns inside and breaking this up a little bit. Now you could do that with a pencil first if you wanted to. Sometimes it's easier, at least in the beginning, to do a little bit of it with a pencil, just until you get your confidence up a little bit, especially if you're doing something you've never really done before. So we can start by adding some lines in here for the fins. We could do that with all the fins. We could do them different with each one. There's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different ways that you can add your patterns in here. So if you feel more comfortable using pencil first, feel free to do that. Or if you feel comfortable and you have the confidence to just do it straight away with a pen or a marker, then that's fine too. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just do whatever feels right for you. We can add some more lines in here. We could keep our lines even. We can make them uneven. So many different ways you can do this. We could add some circles at the ends of these. And you can always try it out with a pencil and see what it looks like. And if you don't like it, then don't do it that way. And then another thing, so this black pen that I was using, this is a Sharpie pen. This is a medium. And then I also have a fine point Sharpie pen. So I might want to use the fine point for the inside to make it a little bit smaller detail. Or I can go ahead and just use this medium one and make them all the same. Again, either way is fine. It's just a matter of personal preference. So now I think I want to make some additional lines down here. And then figure out what I want to do as far as some patterns inside of these lines. I could do just some little scallops. And they don't have to be anything that you would necessarily see on a fish. I could do circles down here. Those look pretty similar, so I don't know if I want to keep that there like that. I don't feel super crazy about that. I think they look too much alike. So that's fine if I don't like it. I can just erase it, try something different. So all I'm gonna do is keep working through all this. Come up with some ideas for different ways to add some patterns in here, break this up a little bit. Like I said, they don't have to be anything that you would find on a fish necessarily. They don't have to be anything, like you don't have to repeat these patterns in here if you don't want to. You can repeat them, you don't have to. But just start filling in the different areas with some patterns. Breaking these big areas up. And then after we get the inside of the fish taken care of, then we can figure out what we want to do for the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up while I finish all my patterns inside, and then I will be back when that's finished.
Be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss.
I got my patterns all drawn out with pencil. So now I need to go over them with black, and I'm going to use this fine point. The other one I did for the outline for the outside edges is a medium point Sharpie pen. I'm going to use this fine point Sharpie pen. And I think I was going to originally put some patterns in these big areas, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave those as where there'll be a solid color. So I'm going to go ahead and trace over these pencil lines with this fine point black Sharpie pen, and then I'll be back when I have that done.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed.
Okay, so now I have everything outlined. I filled in some of the areas with black, this negative space around some of these patterns. I went ahead and filled that in with black. So now the only thing we have left to do is the background, and then to add some color to both the fish and the background. So what I like to do in the backgrounds for this is to do patterns that are like bigger chunks of patterns to fill in this negative space. So I think what I want to do first is to go ahead and color some of this in with markers. So I'm going to grab some markers, and then we're going to go ahead and start adding some color. Okay, so for this, I think I'm going to stick with some yellows, oranges, brown. I'm kind of playing around with the idea of putting a little bit of this mint green color in here. You can do your colors however you want. In typical and traditional Mola art, it's usually very bright and colorful with a lot of different colors mixed in together. And of course, this is just something that's inspired by that style of art. We're not necessarily trying to copy it exactly. This is all about, so when you're looking for inspiration for your artwork, it's more about coming up with ideas to try and experiment with that you maybe wouldn't come up with on your own. So that's what the purpose of finding inspiration from other artists or other types of art is, just to get you ideas so that you're doing some kind of artwork, you're trying some new things, you're stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise thought of to do. So you don't have to necessarily copy it exactly. You can just take inspiration from it, try something, see what you think. And then what I like to do is actually then try it again and change it up a little bit. So for me, inspiration is all about giving me a starting point, and then from there expanding on it and making a series of drawings, or what I like calling a 7-day challenge, where I'll try something and then I'll keep doing that. But each time I do it, so I'll do a series of 7 over 7 days. And with each one, I want to try something a little bit different. And what happens is it'll keep evolving into something a little bit different each time. And when you're done, you have something that's more original than if you're just copying what other people are doing. Or if you're following a step-by-step video or in a book or something like that, if you continue to do it over and over again and changing a little bit each time, then you end up with something that's more unique, original to you, something that's never been done before, and you're not just copying a how-to step-by-step directly from whatever that source is. So oftentimes when I'm looking at inspiration, looking for ideas on the internet, it's really just a starting point that I can build off of. And it works out really well to be able to come up with my own style, my own different types of art. But it really is fun to take some kind of inspiration and then see where I can go with it. So if you've never done that before, you should really think about that, give it a try. Sometimes it's fun to start with something really, really simple and then try to make it more detailed and more complicated. So yeah, so this is Mola inspired art. We're not necessarily trying to duplicate it because, for one thing, it would be traditionally done on textile and cut out a different color fabric, and of course that's not what we're doing here today. So it's going to be a little bit different because we're doing this on paper instead. So I'm going to add this little bit of some green in these solid areas, and then for the rest I'm going to stick with the yellows, orange, the light browns. So I am going to go ahead and finish doing all the colors, and then I will be back when I have that done.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew.
Alright, so everything's colored in. Now I need to do the background. And I think what I want to do is purples. I'm thinking purples and blues for the background. But I think maybe what I want to do is start by tracing around the outside of the fish with one of the colors. I'm thinking of purple. And I think I'll do this with a light purple. So normally what you would have in the background would be either some shapes that fit in with the negative space, or oftentimes on the textile art, there's lines. There's like these little dashes all in the background. So either one would be fine. I think the easiest way to get these negative shapes to stand out is by going right along this outside edge, and then we can work from there. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm making my artwork is just kind of to find the easiest way to do things. So if I'm ever looking at my drawings and I'm not sure what I want to do or how to approach something, I try to find something that I do know for sure how I want to do it. Because creating art is really just a series of decisions that you're making. decisions about how to draw something, what colors to use, how to do the color. There's a lot of different decisions that go into creating your artwork. So if you can tackle the easiest decisions, the most obvious things first, and then you can move on to some other things that are a little bit more complicated, or you're not sure, you haven't made the decision on it yet. But then you can look at it and decide as you go along. Sometimes those things start to make a little bit more sense, or you start to realize what works, what doesn't work, and how you want to do the different elements of your drawings. So the next thing would be to fill in these negative spaces with the marker, or you could also use pen. Pen would work good for this too. Either way, so this is where doing that series really comes in, because I'm picturing in my mind what it would look like to use the marker in the background compared to what it would look like to do pen. What would it look like if I only did this purple? What would it look like if I did different colors in the background or different shades of purple? So the only way to really know what works and what doesn't work is by trying things. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do this all with the same purple. And all I'm doing is filling in that negative space there. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And for this, I don't want to go off the edge of my paper. And I might do some extra little lines in here. So as I'm doing this, and you can see what it looks like, this is where you can start to come up with some different ideas for things to do. So this makes a really nice soft background that contrasts the tight lines and the black on the fish and the brighter colors. And I like that about it. But I also don't like how with the markers you get kind of that fuzzy edge as it absorbs into the paper. So by having something like, if I would have done it with a pen, so I have similar to these black pens, I have other color pens. So here's one that's a bright, like a fuchsia color. I have different colored pens. So I could do that with a pen, and that would give a very different look to this artwork. So that's where doing these series of drawings really comes in handy, because you can try different things, you can experiment, and as you're doing your artwork and you're making the decisions, and you might think, well, what if I made a different decision? What would that look like? So what's really nice is to actually try those things and then compare them and see what the differences are and what they look like. Because this makes, like I said, it's a nice soft contrast to the tightness of the patterns and everything going on inside the fish. But it's also a very different look than if I would have done that with nice, bright, bold pen colors. So just some ideas, different things to try. I could have done different colors in here. I could have tried outlining this in black and filling it in with colors. So there's just a lot of different things you can try, some different variations. But I think that's it for the day. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give us a like and subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. And I will see you next time. Happy creating! Well, that's it for today's art lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you followed along and created some of your own artwork and found inspiration from it. If you want to know more about artist trading cards, don't forget to check out that description box. There's a link in there to a freebie that'll show you everything you need to know to get started making artist trading cards. And if you liked the video, please hit that like button. It helps our channel grow. It helps us reach more people. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. And I will see you next time. Bye!